The worst part wasn't the gift. It was the way my own daughter laughed with her husband, while I stood there holding a cheap red toy like it was my last heartbeat. I felt my face burn. My hands shook so badly, I almost dropped it. Before I begin, if you care about stories like mine, please like this video and subscribe. It means more to me than you know. I'm Evelyn Sterling, and I turned 68 that day. Not some grand milestone, just another year added to the pile of years that already felt too heavy to carry alone. My husband, Harold, had been gone 3 years. Some people say time heals. I think time just teaches you how to smile without showing the bruises. My house was quiet in a way that made my chest ache, the kind of quiet that isn't peace, just absence. Harold's slippers still sat by the hallway rug. I never moved them, not because I was being dramatic, but because I was afraid if I moved them, it would mean he was truly gone. My daughter Jasmine arrived late, perfume first, then footsteps. She came with her husband, Marcus, a man whose grin always looked borrowed. And behind them, my grandson Noah, small and serious, clutching a box like it held something fragile. "Happy birthday, Mom," Jasmine said. Quick kiss, quick hug, the kind you give a coworker you don't know well. Marcus looked around my living room like he was pricing it in his head, the walls, the floor, the piano nobody played anymore. Then Noah stepped forward. He didn't smile, he didn't bounce like a child should on a birthday visit, he just held out the box. "This is for you, Grandma. Please don't lose it." Inside was a little plastic patrol car, bright red, light as air, the kind you'd see spinning on a gas station rack. I should have found it silly, but my throat tightened, because Noah's eyes were not playful, they were warning. "Oh my God," Marcus snorted, and Jasmine actually giggled. "A toy car for your mom?" He leaned down toward Noah like he was being helpful, like he wasn't cutting me. "Buddy, Grandma needs something practical. Maybe socks, maybe a new vacuum." My grandson stared at his own shoes. I smiled anyway. That's what women like me do. We smile so the world can keep going. "This is perfect," I told Noah softly, and I meant it. I'm going to keep it where I can see it every day. His shoulders loosened just a little, like I'd promised something bigger than a toy. And I didn't understand why until later that night when the house turned dark and that little red car began to blink like a tiny heartbeat in the shadows. And I realized my grandson hadn't given me a toy, he'd given me a message, but I had no idea what it was trying to save me from, because the real humiliation hadn't happened yet. I thought my birthday was the worst thing I'd survived that day, but the night was just getting started. The next hour was dinner, but it felt like a meeting I wasn't invited to speak in. I made gumbo the way Harold liked it, slow, patient, seasoned with memories. Steam rose from the pot, warm and comforting, but the table felt cold. Jasmine picked at her food and avoided my eyes, like my face was a mirror she didn't want to look into. Marcus talked too much, too loud, too confident. He made jokes about old houses, about wasted space, about how people cash out when they get older. And then Jasmine said it. "Mom, have you ever thought about selling?" The spoon paused halfway to my mouth. "What?" I asked, like maybe I'd misheard. "It's just a lot for you," she said quickly. "The maintenance, the taxes, the yard. Maybe we could help you find something smaller." Marcus leaned back, folding his hands like a man preparing to close a deal. "This property's a gold mine," he said. "But the house, it's dated. Nobody buys houses like this anymore. Tear it down, build new. You'd be surprised what it's worth." I felt something inside me go stiff and quiet. Tear it down? This house was where Harold painted the nursery walls when Jasmine was born, where he measured her height on the kitchen door frame every year, where I sang Noah to sleep when he was a baby and Jasmine needed a break. And now they were speaking about it like it was an old couch with a stain. I looked at Jasmine, waiting for her to correct him. She didn't. Her silence tasted bitter, like cold tea left too long. Noah didn't eat much. He kept glancing at me, then at Marcus, then down at the little red car I'd set by the lamp, like a promise. When they finally stood to leave, Noah hugged my waist with a tightness that scared me. "Grandma," he whispered into my sweater, voice trembling, "please don't lose the car. It's important." I pulled back just enough to see his face. His eyes were shiny, but he didn't cry. He looked like a child trying to be brave for someone older. "What's wrong, baby?" I asked. He swallowed. "Nothing, just keep it." Marcus called from the door. "Come on, Noah. Grandma's fine. She's tough." Tough. That word people use when they don't want to admit they've been hurting you. They drove off, and the silence returned. The same silence that lived with me now, heavy and patient. I stood in the living room with the toy car in my hands. It was light, cheap, harmless, and yet my stomach wouldn't settle. I placed it on my nightstand beside Harold's picture like it was a small guard dog. Then I heard my phone ring. Jasmine, breathless. "Mom, can we come back? Marcus's car won't start. Tow truck's taking forever. We might need to stay the night." I said yes. I don't know why. Maybe because mothers say yes even when their hearts are tired. Maybe because Noah was with them, and I didn't understand yet that letting them in that night would open a door I'd spend the rest of the story trying to close. They came back to my house like stranded travelers, but the truth is, they came back because their plan couldn't wait. They arrived after midnight. Marcus stormed inside first, angry at the world like the world owed him gentleness. He tossed his bag on my hallway floor and went straight to my kitchen like it was his. He opened my fridge, took out my bourbon, drank without asking. Jasmine moved quietly behind him like a shadow, like someone trained not to make noise. Noah looked exhausted. I tucked him into my bed, the bed Harold and I used to share. He curled up, holding his worn stuffed bear, and for a moment, seeing him there made my chest soften. Children don't belong in grown people's storms. When the house finally settled, I sat alone at my table with a lukewarm cup of tea cradled in my palms. Rain started tapping the window, soft at first, then steadier, like someone drumming a warning. And then I heard voices through the wall. Not loud, not yelling. That was the scariest kind. Marcus's voice came first, low and sharp. "You have to stop being soft." Jasmine's voice answered, trembling. "She's my mother." "She's an old woman sitting on a house worth a fortune," he hissed. "And we're drowning, Jasmine, drowning." I froze. My heart cracked in a quiet way, like a glass that doesn't shatter all at once, just splits and waits. Jasmine whispered, "I can't do this to her." Marcus replied, "You can and you will. She'll be gone soon anyway." I pressed my hand to my mouth because a sound tried to escape me. Then he said the words that changed the air in my lungs. "There's a way to do it without her consent." I felt cold creep up my arms. "Declare her incompetent," Marcus continued, calm like he was reading a recipe. "A couple doctor notes. Stress her out, push her, make her snap. Then the court does the rest." My breath turned thin. I stared at my own kitchen, the framed family photos, the worn tablecloth, the quiet life I thought I still controlled. I realized I was not listening to a marital argument. I was listening to a plan. And the person letting him speak that plan was my daughter. Jasmine didn't shout. She didn't protest. She just made a small sound, half sob, half surrender. And that was worse than yelling, because it meant she was already halfway gone from me. My fingers reached for the toy car by the nightstand, like a child reaching for a blanket. I turned it over. A faint red light blinked behind the grill. I stared. Blink, 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 like the car was breathing, like it was listening. And in that moment, I remembered Noah's face, the fear, the urgency. Don't lose it. My hands shook as I searched the underside and found a tiny switch hidden near the wheel. I hesitated, heart pounding, then flipped it. Nothing. I pressed the siren button. A soft click answered, and then a voice. Marcus, clear as day. He'll break. Old people always do. My stomach dropped so hard I thought I might vomit. Because I wasn't imagining this. I wasn't mishearing. I wasn't too sensitive. I had proof, and my 7-year-old grandson was the one who put it in my hands. I thought I was alone in that house, but the car proved Noah had been fighting for me in silence long before I knew I needed saving. Morning sunlight can be cruel. It makes everything look normal, even when your life is bleeding quietly. Marcus sat at my table, scrolling on his phone, relaxed like a man who hadn't threatened to erase me the night before. Jasmine scrambled eggs with shaking hands. Noah ate slowly, eyes down. I watched them and felt something unfamiliar settle inside me. Not rage, not panic, a kind of stillness. The stillness a woman gets when she finally understands she has been chosen as the sacrifice. After breakfast, Jasmine stepped outside to hang laundry. Marcus didn't wait 2 seconds. He slid into the chair beside me, voice suddenly warm, too warm. "Mrs. Sterling," he began, "I want to talk to you like family." I held my cup, didn't speak. He smiled that thin smile. "I'm in a temporary situation, a real estate opportunity, big returns, but I need capital just to start it." "How much?" I asked. He didn't blink. 300,000. I laughed once. It came out dry and sharp. He leaned forward. "You have it. Don't play humble. Your house alone." "My house is not your wallet," I said softly. His face tightened. "It's for Jasmine, for Noah. Don't you care about your grandson?" There it was, the weapon. They always use the child, always. My throat squeezed. I thought of Noah's small arms around my waist, his trembling voice. I set my cup down carefully. The porcelain tapped the wood like a gavel. "No," I said. "I won't give you money. I won't sell this house, and I won't sign anything." Marcus's smile vanished so fast it was almost funny. He stood up, chair scraping. "You selfish old woman." Jasmine stepped back into the kitchen at that exact moment, hearing the last words like a slap. "Mom," she whispered. Marcus pointed at me like I was the enemy in a story he'd already told her. "She refuses to help her own family. She'd rather rot in this museum than save us." Jasmine's eyes filled with tears. Not for me, for him. "Mom, please," she begged. "We need this." I stared at her, my daughter, my baby, a grown woman still looking at her husband like he was the sun. I nodded slowly, and then I said the sentence that split our world in two. "I raised you better than this." Jasmine flinched. Marcus sneered. Noah looked up, startled. They left that afternoon without a goodbye. Noah turned once in the driveway, and for a second I saw the child he truly was, confused, scared, trapped. Then Marcus opened the car door hard enough to rattle it, and Noah disappeared inside. The house swallowed their absence. I stood at my window with the toy car in my palm. The recorder inside had captured more than Marcus's mouth. It captured his intent. And now I had to decide what to do with the truth. Because truth is powerful.
but it's also dangerous when it threatens greedy people. I thought refusing him would end it, but that no didn't stop Marcus. It only taught me I would need to be destroyed.
A week passed with no calls. That silence wasn't peace. It was planning. Saturday morning, they arrived like a commercial. Smiles, groceries, fake concern. Jasmine hugged me too tightly, too suddenly. Marcus carried a fancy bag of fruit I didn't eat. "We were worried about you," Jasmine said sweetly. "You're all alone." Alone. That word again, used like a leash. They moved through my house like they belonged to it. Marcus walked room to room, touching things with a casual disrespect. My piano, my books, Harold's chair. Then he drifted toward my study. My stomach tightened. That room held deeds, insurance, old letters, the bones of my life. "I'll just dust," he said. I said nothing. I followed him quietly. He opened drawers he had no business opening. He smiled like a man who enjoys small trespasses before large ones. Then I saw it. He photographed my documents. Quick, greedy clicks. Deed, tax papers, bonk letters. My throat went hot. When he finished, I stepped into the doorway. "Find what you were looking for?" I asked softly. His hands froze. His face flashed pale, then smug. "I'm helping," he lied. I reached forward and took the folder from him like I was taking my dignity back with my own fingers. "Don't touch my things again," I said. Marcus's eyes hardened. Jasmine didn't defend me. She wiped a counter that was already clean, pretending she didn't hear. That night, after they left, I sat at my kitchen table and stared at my hands. These hands had cooked for them, cleaned for them, held Noah when he cried, paid for Jasmine's braces, helped with her first apartment, and now those same hands trembled, not from age, but from betrayal. I needed help. I called an old friend I hadn't spoken to in years, Curtis Ellington, a man Harold trusted with his life, a man who became a property lawyer after working in the same technical world as my husband. Curtis listened, quiet, patient. Then he said, "Evelyn, they're building a case to steal your house." My eyes closed. He continued, "We hit first. You come to my office tomorrow. Bring every document." For the first time in a long time, I felt something rise inside me like breath returning after a long drowning. I wasn't powerless. I was just tired. And tired women, when they finally stand up, don't stand up halfway. Curtis asked me for one thing, proof, and I already had it hidden inside that little red car. But what I found on that recording next would change everything. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my living room with the toy car on my lap like it was a confession. The rain returned, tapping the window like impatient fingers. I flipped the hidden switch again, pressed the siren button. Click. Then Marcus's voice poured out, smug and careless, like he didn't know the future was listening. "She's stubborn," he said, "but she'll sign. We just need the right pressure." Another voice answered him, a man's voice, raspy, unfamiliar. "What if she calls the police?" Marcus laughed. "Police? She barely knows how to use her phone. She's a relic." I felt my spine go stiff. The raspy voice asked, "And the daughter? You sure she'll follow through?" Marcus replied, "Jasmine will do whatever I say. She cries, she complains, but she wants the life I promised. She'll sacrifice her mother for it." My hand flew to my mouth, because hearing it spoken like that, hearing my daughter described like a tool, it shattered something in me. Then Marcus said the sentence that turned my stomach to ice.
And after the house sells, I'm not staying with her anyway. Silence swallowed me. He continued, laughing softly. I'll toss her a small cut and take the rest. She'll be too embarrassed to admit she helped rob her own mother. My breath came out shaky, thin. So this wasn't just about money. It was about control, about using women like stepping stones. He was stealing from me and planning to discard my daughter and using my grandson as the leash to drag us both. I sat there with the car trembling in my hands. The LED blinked like a tiny warning light on the dashboard of my life. Blink, blink, blink. I thought of Noah. I'd pictured him listening to that conversation somewhere, quietly, scared, absorbing poison meant for adults. And suddenly I understood. Noah didn't give me a toy car because he loved cars. Noah gave me a recorder because he loved me. My eyes filled. A sob tried to rise, but I swallowed it. Not because I was strong, but because I was done being soft. I called Curtis at dawn. Whispered, "Curtis, I have the proof." He paused. "How strong?" I said, voice breaking, "Strong enough to bury them without lifting a hand." And then I looked around my home, the walls, the photos, the quiet years. I thought I was packing a suitcase to protect myself, but in truth, I was packing to protect Noah. Because if Marcus could plan my destruction so casually, what kind of man would Noah become under that roof? And that's when I made a decision that broke my heart, but saved my soul. I thought the truth would set me free, but first, it was going to set my family on fire.
Curtis told me something that day I'll never forget. "Evelyn," he said gently, "people like Marcus don't stop when you say no. They stop when the door closes on their fingers." I sat across from him in his quiet office, clutching my purse like it was the last thing that belonged to me. My reflection stared back from the glass cabinet. Older, yes, but not broken, just awakened. He laid out the plan slowly, carefully, the way a man speaks when he knows the listener has already been wounded enough. First, we secured my property. Legal notices sent to every office that mattered. No signatures valid without my presence. No transfers, no shortcuts. Second, I volunteered for a full medical evaluation. That part stung. Not because I was afraid, but because it felt humiliating to prove I was sane when my own daughter was helping paint me as fragile. I passed, of course. Sound mind, clear memory, fully competent. Curtis smiled. That alone ruins half their plan. I drove home afterward with my hands tight on the steering wheel. The road blurred for a moment, and I had to pull over. I cried there. Not loud, just tears sliding down my cheeks while my chest shook. I wasn't crying because I was scared. I was crying because I finally understood something painful. I had spent my whole life protecting everyone else, and no one had ever planned to protect me. When I got home, I placed the little red toy car in plain sight on the coffee table. Not hidden, not protected, displayed. If Marcus came again, and I knew he would, he'd speak freely. People like him always do when they think they've already won. That night I wrote 2 letters, one for Jasmine, one for Noah. Jasmine's was short. "I know everything. This ends now." No anger, no begging, just truth. Noah's took hours. I told him he was brave, that he was good, that Grandma would always hear him even when he couldn't speak out loud. I folded it carefully, my hands trembling, not with fear, but with resolve. I wasn't waiting anymore. I was preparing, because I knew the next knock on my door wouldn't be concern, it would be a demand. I didn't know when they'd return, only that when they did, the game would finally be played in the open. They came on a Friday evening. No warning, no call. Marcus walked in like a man collecting what he believed was already his. Jasmine followed behind him, eyes hollow, holding a cake she hadn't bothered to ice. And Noah, seeing him, broke something in me. He ran straight to the red toy car and rolled it across the floor like nothing was wrong, like adults weren't about to tear the air apart. Marcus didn't waste time. He placed a folder on the table. "We're done talking," he said. "It's time to sign." I opened it slowly. A deed transfer. My home. My life. Handed over like a receipt. I said no, I replied calmly. Marcus leaned forward, eyes cold. "You don't understand. You don't have a choice." Jasmine began to cry quietly beside him. And then Marcus did the cruelest thing a man can do. He pointed at Noah. "If you don't sign," he said, voice low and deliberate, "you will never see him again. We'll move. You won't know where. You'll die alone in this house, wondering if he even remembers you." The room went silent. Noah froze. My heart shattered. I looked at my daughter. She didn't stop him. She didn't say my name. She just cried. And in that moment, something inside me went numb. Not angry, empty. I realized I wasn't losing my daughter that day. I had already lost her. I nodded slowly. "Get me a pen." Marcus smiled like a victor. I took it, then looked up. "We'll do it properly," I said. "Tomorrow, notary, lawyer present." His smile faltered. "A lawyer?" he asked. "Yes," I replied. "Mine." Greed won over caution. It always does. They agreed. They left thinking they'd broken me. I sat alone after they were gone, staring at the toy car still sitting between us, like a witness. I pressed the hidden button one more time, and listened, and listened, and listened, because tomorrow they were walking into a truth they could never outrun. Marcus thought he'd cornered an old woman, but he didn't know he was about to face a lifetime of his own words. They arrived dressed for victory. Marcus in a suit, Jasmine pale, Noah silent. Curtis sat beside me, calm as stone. Marcus smirked. "Let's make this quick." I reached for the recorder. "I'd like you to hear something first." Marcus laughed. "You always were dramatic." I pressed play. His own voice filled the room. "She'll break. Old people always do. She doesn't even know how to use a smartphone." The color drained from his face. Jasmine gasped. Then came the rest. His plan, his lies, his intention to abandon Jasmine after taking everything. When the recording ended, the silence was suffocating. Curtis spoke next. "These recordings constitute evidence of fraud, coercion, and intent." Marcus collapsed into his chair. Jasmine stared at her husband like she was seeing a stranger for the first time. I didn't feel triumph. I felt tired. "Two options," I said quietly. "Police or this." Curtis slid a document forward. "No claims to my assets, permanent distance order, and temporary custody of Noah with me." Marcus signed immediately. Jasmine hesitated. I looked at her. "This is the consequence of your silence," I said softly. She signed. And just like that, the war ended. I didn't win anything that day, but I finally stopped losing myself. Everything unraveled quickly after that. Marcus's debts surfaced, creditors called, his promises collapsed. He vanished within weeks. Jasmine moved into a small apartment and said little. Noah came to live with me. The house sold, not to profit, but to purpose. A children's support center bought it. Laughter replaced sorrow. I moved into a smaller home with Noah nearby. We healed slowly, together. I thought peace would feel loud, but it came quietly, like a child falling asleep safely at last. One evening, Noah asked, "Grandma, did I do the right thing?" I held his face in my hands. "You did the bravest thing." I learned something late in life. Love doesn't demand silence. Family doesn't excuse cruelty, and dignity is not something you give away to keep peace. Sometimes the smallest voice tells the biggest truth, and sometimes a little red toy car can save a life, because it saved mine.